this, it is omnidirectional, but it once again has a toroidal radiation pattern. Toroidal in respect of with the same toroid shape as the antenna. So the null is straight up and straight down. If I want to form a null and I don't want to hear you, I can aim it like this. Or if I want to hear you very strongly, I can aim it like this. But since I use it on single sideband, tradition says I have to use it like so.
Okay, question, is there a center conductor all the way around that?
No, this is the conductor.
Just that
and
one.
there is a break here.
I made a 10-meter loop that was a little smaller than that for transmitter hunting one time. The center conductor did go all the way around, so the break was cut.
That depends upon the design, because some of them are flows, some of them aren't. It depends upon the matching network over here.
Okay.
And you can use it for direction finding. I described that earlier. And this is what its radiation pattern does look like. Once again, if you lower this below half a wavelength, you're going to smear out this toroid and it's going to start looking a little strange. Since everyone has cell phones or GPS, I wanted to give you an example. If you look, there's the patch antenna. We're looking at the patch, say it's like this, and your GPS unit you're holding your GPS unit, sky is up like this. The radiation pattern actually points upward. Oh, sorry. So it's looking straight upward. With a cell phone, it's looking outward. So if you know where the cell tower is, you might want to, if you're in an iffy situation, you might want to point the back of your telephone, not the microphone or earphone piece, but that's where you're pointing the antenna.
So how good do those little Mickey antennas work that they let you pull out of there? Mine has a little antenna on it.
I think they're giving you two choices, and it's kind of like diversity tuning, because they almost all have patch antennas.
They tell you though, if you're going to use the little antenna, pull it all the way out, don't?
Yeah, and the older ones may have been because they were dual frequency too.
Oh, okay.
Well, the newer ones have up to 4 or 6 frequencies. They're really like a designer's nightmare.
Are they fractal?
Fractal antennas, I don't think have gotten out of lab yet. When I was in grad school, fractal antennas, they were at UNM, New Mexico. They were designing a lot of them, and they were using MEMS technology to have switches between the various parts of the fractals, so they could tune multiple bands.
Mm-hmm. But they haven't been commercially.
I can't say yes. They might be. They're close.
The military's using them kind of in certain applications. Fractal.
Well, they would be the first ones, and it probably was from Kirtland at Sandia, because that's where it came out, and all of a sudden papers that came out of those grad students got classified. And some of the grad students couldn't get their PhD because they were foreign nationals, and as soon as their work became classified, they couldn't work on their own work anymore, which is really kind of painful after 8 years in college and you don't get a PhD.
Yeah, some of the military stuff, they've got fractals, and they're nice little itsy bitsy.
Mm-hmm.
They're like about as big as a postage stamp, and they use them in special applications.
Do you know what applications?
Yeah, classified information. Yeah.
Probably.
I'm retired military. I work with some of that stuff.
Oh, you did?
Well,
I had to get a classified, a security classification working in the grad school I worked at.
that was because you were inside the fence.
I was working inside of Sandia and Los Alamos labs.
Yeah, inside the fence.
Not physically, but my computer was. So yeah, it's scary stuff. I wanted to show you with the same antenna, just changing the band, what the radiation pattern is. So here is a doublet, which is a non-resonant dipole. So it's say a G5RV is cut to 3/2 wavelength at 20 meters. This is a doublet, and on 40 meters and on 20 meters. Just the difference in those two bands, what happened with the lobes. This is all looking down on it from the top. And now we go to 17 meters and we go to 15 meters and look at how much it changed. So you can't say the same antenna won't work on multiple bands, but it's going to work a little differently. Lastly, we have Ernie's favorite mode seems to win the race. Of the modes that we use, this gets the best bang for the buck.
Yeah, Frank's not here today, so that was Frank's mode too.
One reason is because it's so narrow. It gets more power into a smaller amount of frequency. And because of the computer and because of some of the DSP stuff, it can copy that really, really well. In Mars, we use MT63. And you need to have your computer on because you can't hear what's coming across, but the computer gets perfect copy. It's simply amazing. You can't hear a thing.
There's a lot of areas
MT63 works really, really well.
New Mexico, San Diego County, that's what's pretty well in the whole system.
I wonder if it was affected by Mars, because Mars we only use that and that's about it.
I think indirectly, but
Well, I know there's a lot of cross membership down there, because that's where I got into Mars. The next best one is CW. I'm a fan, so I can't help it. And what I'd really like to advocate is for more people, if they have the rigs that can do it, single sideband. If people,
use the wheel.
yes,
That's what we use those on AM. 2-meter Mars.
yes.
years ago.
Richard brought this in, and I have this article here on it from the 1961 QST. These are each half wavelength long at 2 meters, and it's got a really nice radiation pattern. And this is not for FM, otherwise you'd have to do it like this, and it would be very directive. It's omnidirectional, and it's got great gain. It's got much better gain than this. And these are both for 2 meters. So look at the difference in the amount of metal in the air.
How would you call that?
What?
How would you call that?
It's a big wheel.
Big wheel?
I didn't name it.
That's what they named it.
Yeah, big wheel.
I want to look it up on the internet.
I think they're still out there.
Did you have to have phasing harnesses with that, Richard? Do you need phasing harnesses with that?
If you look at the article, they have multiple, they have these stacked, and then those are phased,
Okay,
not this.
but you don't need with the,
These are dipoles, actually, so they're from the same feed point.
oh, okay.
So you're feeding 3 well, you're feeding 3 half wavelengths.
Okay.
And since you're feeding them from the end, you have the voltage points,
Yeah.
not the current points. Next would be AM, and the reason for the CW single sideband AM ordering is because of the width of the signal and the amount of power that you can put into it. CW is not very wide. All it is a single tone. Single sideband is AM where you threw away the carrier and you threw away one of the sidebands. So you've got just a little bit of that frequency left. You've got supposedly all the intelligibility you had within the AM because your radio, your receiver puts the carrier and the other sideband back in and it treats it like it's AM. AM, in fact, is amplitude modulation, and it's medium wide. It's probably, what, 10 kilohertz, 15 kilohertz?
That'll give you fairly good audio, 10 or 15 kilohertz, yeah.
And you can probably get it down to maybe 6 kilohertz wide. So you can put a lot of talk power into that much bandwidth.
So the intelligence is carried in the amplitude variation, and that's why it's called amplitude modulation.
And FM, on the other hand, as your frequency of your spoken voice goes up, the bandwidth goes up. So if you have a really low voice, you have a skinnier signal than if you have a high voice. Or if you play a lot of music, or it takes up a lot of space. And then I also mentioned the capture ratio, the discriminator, the compression, all that sort of stuff is a problem. Lastly, we get to FM digital, which is, of all our ECOM modes, the least bang for the buck. You can't get very far with FM digital voice or FM digital data, either one. It really works well if you can work within that certain zone.
But if something like D-Star, that's phase modulation, is it not?
It's on top of FM.
Oh, it is?